Hey guys, Brett Weiss here. Welcome to another video. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It is super helpful. Got a special treat for you guys today, talking Atari 2600. Three really cool, really popular YouTubers are going to appear on my channel right here in just a moment, talking about their favorite Atari 2600 game of all time. I love doing these videos. They're a lot of fun. It's really interesting to find out their favorite game and just to hear what they say about them. I've done several of these for different consoles with different YouTubers. Today I've got three of the nicest guys in the biz. It's awesome. And when they're through, I'm going to talk about my top 10 Atari 2600 games, at least according to my list in the 2600 connection. The July-August 2008 issue. So this was almost 15 years ago now. I wrote for this fanzine a few times. Really cool fanzine, and this dates back all the way back to the 1990s. Back in the 90s, video game fandom was sort of an underground thing. There were a lot of us that were collecting retro games, but when I say a lot, that's a relative term. There were actually very few of us compared to today. And a lot of us back in the 90s didn't even know other collectors. You know, in the 90s, it was really considered kind of weird or just to play Atari games, Atari 2600 games. And the console was considered junk by a lot of people. Today, it's considered classic and collectible. And so, the 2600 connection and digital press and some other fanzines kept a lot of us fans, interacting with each other and aware of each other's collections and trading through the mail and stuff. The reason I sound so terrible is because I was at Retropalooza all day, talking with readers, talking with fans of my YouTube channel, having a great time. But here we are late at night, and I wanted to share this video with you guys because I'm really excited about it. So without further ado, let's hear from three YouTubers about their favorite video game for the 2600 of all time. These are my good buddies, My Retro Life, Okchief, and last but not least, Adam Koralik. All three great friends of mine, really cool guys. And then I will reveal my top 10 games in the 2600 connection. Some of my favorites have changed over time, but it's interesting to look back at this list. So let's check it out, and we'll see you in just a moment after you hear from these awesome YouTubers.
Hey, this is Tyler with My Retro Life, and Brett asked me to give my favorite Atari 2600 game, and I think that has got to be Pitfall 2. The Lost Caverns, I think it was called. And that game, really, I loved Pitfall. I grew up watching my cousins play Pitfall on their Commodore 64. That introduced me to the fact that there was Pitfall games, like the original Pitfall by Activision on the Atari 2600. But because I grew up in the NES era with more sophisticated games, I guess you could say, Pitfall 2 really appealed to me because it was this big open cavern world, kind of non-linear. You could explore the whole thing and find the gold and take the different pathways that you wanted to. It was a much bigger game than the original Pitfall. And it blew me away that they could even do that on the original Atari 2600, that you could have this really big open game like that. That was really revolutionary for the time. And so for all the many hours I put into that one specifically and the world that I felt like I was lost in because of Pitfall 2, that's got to be my favorite Atari 2600 game.
So hey, what's up everyone? I'm Okchief, and I'm here at Retropalooza, and I'm here to talk about one of my favorite all-time Atari 2600 games, River Raid. This game was one of the most influential games that I've ever played in my life. It really got me addicted to playing video games at a very early age. Started it off at my uncle's house. My house did not have any video games, but my uncle did a lot of sleepovers there, many a nights at 4 years old, staying up till 3 in the morning playing one of the most awesome games ever made. If you haven't checked it out, try it out. Really cool up-scrolling game that will keep you addicted for hours.
Hey, I'm Adam Koralik and Brett Weiss. You asked me to talk about my favorite Atari 2600 games. You only ever seem to do this when I'm not home. Now, to be fair, that's my fault. I'm never home. But yes, enjoy the beach. This is San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I got nothing better to do than talk about my favorite Atari 2600 games. You're lucky. Unlike the previous ones where you asked me these consoles I really never had any experience playing, 2600 I did. I played that a lot as a kid because that was actually my first console. I'm not as old as I look. I'm just in horrible shape. But my mom gave me one of those thinking, nah, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, Atari 2600, all the same thing. Just take that. You'll have fun with that. But I did. I played Combat a lot. That was my favorite. You know, my mom actually kept like the original boxes and everything, so you look at the artwork and you're like, wow, this looks amazing. This is like this crazy war game. And it wasn't. It was just little blocks, as obviously the Atari 2600 always was. But man, that was a surprisingly addictive and fun game with all these different modes and everything like that. I really had a great time with it. That was like the #1 game I think I was addicted to. Second choice, if I get one of those, would be Space Invaders. I really, really like that as well. Those are my favorites. So thank you. You know, big shout out to Brett. Thank you very much for asking me a part of this.
All right, guys, what do you think of that list? What do you think of those 3 games? Great games. You can definitely leave in the comments what you think of those titles or what your favorite 2600 game is. And here we go. If you'll check it out, the 10 best Atari 2600 games by Brett Weiss, author of Classic Home Video Games 1972 through 1984. This was back after I only had 1 book under my belt. This book was published in 2007. And so without further ado, maybe you saw that list. Maybe if you're just listening, these will be a surprise to you. So let's get to it. Number 10, River Raid. Now today I would put River Raid at number 1 or 2, but in 2008, apparently that's what I thought. 2008, River Raid. Amazing vertical scrolling shooter. Definitely one of my favorite Atari 2600 games of all time. It's phenomenal. It was the first vertically scrolling shooter for a home console. And you just heard Okchief talk about that being his favorite game. Number 9 is Combat. Well, there you go. Another coincidence here. You heard Adam Koralik talk about that. That's his favorite 2600 game. Very cool. Kind of funny how that worked out. Number 8, Super Breakout, an amazing, very accurate port of the arcade classic. Now, no, the graphics aren't perfect. They don't look exactly like the arcade game, but they definitely get the job done, and they work beautifully with the Atari 2600 rotary controllers, the paddle controllers. Number 7, Phoenix. Now, Phoenix is a little too easy. It needs some harder difficulty levels, but I still love the game. Great shooter, great port of the arcade classic. Number 6 is Miss Pac-Man, another great port, one of the all-time great maze games. Number 5, the official Frogger. Not just Frogger, not just the regular Parker Brothers Frogger, but the official Frogger for the StarPath Supercharger, one of the most accurate, arcade-accurate ports of all time for the 2600. Amazing. And if you haven't got a StarPath Supercharger, I pity you. Some great games for that attachment for the 2600. Number 4 is Dodgem, a controversial choice. I don't know that Dodgem would hit a lot of people's top 10 favorite 2600 games of all time, but man, I love that game. It's just a sort of a dot-eating game combined with a racer, and I really enjoy it. Sort of like Pac-Man, but with race cars. Number 3, Kaboom. Definitely one of the all-time greatest Atari 2600 games of all time. Works beautifully with the paddle controllers. A definite Activision classic. Number 2 is Space Invaders. Now this is a game I often cite as, on some days it's my favorite 2600 game of all time. I love the different variations. An amazing shooter. I love it. It's a great arcade port, even though it doesn't mimic it perfectly, but that's what I like about it, because it has some different variants that aren't in the arcade version. Love it. And number 1, Junior Pac-Man. Wow. Very difficult, challenging maze game for the 2600. Another great arcade port. Common theme to these arcade ports. Now, my list today would be a little different. I might have Yar's Revenge up here on some days, depending on my mood. Who knows? Maybe Qbert might be in here on a certain day. I love me some Atari 2600. My list changes all the time. Moon Patrol, Jungle Hunt, so many amazing games for the console. Some great original games as well. Unbelievable console adventure, obviously a classic and an original for the 2600. Anyway, guys, let me know in the comments what your favorite Atari 2600 game of all time is. And let me know what you think about these YouTubers I had on my channel. And if you like these kinds of videos, where I have these guys and gals appear on my channel talking about their favorite game for a particular console. I really enjoy doing it. It's a ton of fun. It's interesting to hear their picks, and it's just cool to have them on my channel, and it's just a lot of fun, guys. On YouTube, I'm all about having fun. You know, I wouldn't be up here at midnight recording in my game room if I wasn't enjoying this. I'm having a great time, and hey, I better go to bed. I gotta get ready for day 2 of Retropalooza. First thing, tomorrow morning. Thank you guys for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. And check out in the description of this video, I've got linked to these guys' channels. And hey, you probably already subscribed to them anyway, but if not, check them out. All right, guys, thanks again. We will talk to you in another video. Thanks for watching.
It's me, Mario! Here we go!